Hi guys, how you doing today? Russ here from Wilson Land and Cattle Company. Today we're going to change the universal joint in a PTO shaft. It really isn't as hard as we seem to make it out to be. I used to struggle with this a lot. And the reason we're changing this universal joint out is the neighbor struggles with changing the universal joints as well. There was nothing wrong with this universal joint other than whenever it was in position, one of the snap rings popped out and the cups come off. So we're gonna fix that today. If you would, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share with a friend. And the parts that we need for this project: we need a hammer. I have two here, preferably one with at least one with a flat face on it. We need a socket that will fit down over the caps, and then we need one about the same diameter as the caps. Need a round file. I have a couple picks. Sometimes you need them, sometimes you don't. And a pair of snap ring pliers. Those are all the tools that we should need for this project. The parts to a universal joint: we have the cap seal, and inside there we have a bunch of needle bearings. And each universal joint has 4 caps on it. We're going to take those all off. This here's called the trunnion. And then we have this is a greasable universal joint, so it has a grease fitting on it. What we got to do first is get the old universal joint out. Now this one here, I already pulled one snap ring out because the gentleman that I'm doing this for, I pulled it out so he could take it to the store and make sure that it came with snap rings. So what we need to do is get the snap rings out of each side. And sometimes these are outside snap rings, sometimes you have inside snap rings. And snap rings can be touchy. These ones here, my problem with these ones here are my snap ring pliers won't close completely. So I struggle a little bit to get it in there. Okay, we have the snap ring out, or popped out of there. Gotta be careful, you'll lose it. Okay, snap ring's out. I took the one out, like I said last night, we took the one out on the other side. This here's for a Pequa hay rake that I actually owned. Oh, I bought it used in 2008 from a dairy farm. I towed it behind my pickup truck for 75 miles to get it home. It was a rotary rake. It's a 10-foot rotary rake. And if you're still using the old roller bar rake, you need to think about switching over to the rotary rake. You're going to dry hay a lot quicker and you're going to get it done a lot faster. Okay, there's a couple ways that we can get this universal joint out. We can have 2 pieces of metal to prop that up, like so. Then we take our socket, we put down over top of the yoke. These sections here, these are called yokes. We can drive it like that, but I prefer to put it in vise. If you have a vise, it's a lot easier. The other method works just as well. See, that cap popped right out of there. And I expect this one to do the same. Okay, this cap popped right out. So we're gonna save those caps. We'll put it in a bag and label it for them. Make sure you got all the bearings. Being we got those caps loosened up, we can just take our punch. What do I do with it? Here it is. Take our punch and punch the other cap out. And there it is. We got the old one out. I'm going to have them save the trunnion and the caps because they're still good yet, and they could get them out of a bind sometime if he's making hay or something and needs to get that piece of machine back up and get it running quickly. It's a smart thing to do. Put this cap back on, put this one back on, and I'll just run a piece of tape around it so they don't fall back off. I'll put it in a bag and I'll mark what it's for, and he can hang it on the wall, and whenever he needs it again, or if this thing falls apart again, he has parts to fix it with. Okay, we want to feel, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. It's pretty greasy. Probably still has grease on it from whenever I was using the darn thing. I like to use a lot of grease. Lots and lots of grease will save you a lot of repairs. Okay, we take our yokes. We want to feel and make sure there's no rough spots. If we feel a rough spot, we need to dress it up because we need those caps to go in square without any troubles. So that's very, very important. That one there looks pretty good. Now this one here I expect to have some damage on it because this is the one that the caps come out of. So it probably caused some problems. And it did. You can feel the burr on it. Now next step is to take your pick and clean out the groove where the snap ring sets. Whenever you're pounding on steel and stuff, don't forget to wear your safety glasses. It's pretty important. If it doesn't take an eye out, if you get a piece of steel stuck in your eye, it's no fun getting it out. I've had it happen to me twice now. And what that does, you can't just leave it in there. It has to come out. You don't have a choice. We're ready to start putting our caps in. Take your cap. You have all these needle bearings in here. Put extra grease down in there. That helps hold those bearings in place. So if you get one crossways, you get to take it all back apart and put it back together. So pack that down in there with grease. That will hold those bearings in place. We'll put our U-joint in there. Now what I do is I start it up into the cap a little bit because that will help keep those needle bearings in place, and I'll hold that in place whenever I go to drive it in. Okay, now to drive this in, do not ever, to drive this cap in, do not ever hit that with this rounded surface like the peen on the ball peen hammer, or most ball peen hammers are rounded here. Never hit that, because if you dent that in, that could cause damage to your U-joint. We're going to slide that up in there. And you can see how I'm holding that U-joint up while I'm hitting it. Now I'm going to have to let go of it here to finish driving it. Okay, whenever you drive your cap in, you want to go just slightly past where your snap ring hooks in. Okay, cap number 2. We put our grease in there to hold those bearings in place. Now I'll slide the trunnion up into the cap a little bit. Now before we drive this one in completely, we want to put our snap ring on this side. Snap it in place. Hopefully I can get it to fit in there with these snap ring pliers. Yep, snap down in there. I like to take a punch or something and push that snap ring right, seat it right down in really well. Because I really don't want him to come back and say, hey, my universal joint fell out and it was because of my fault. Okay, now we'll pound this cap in, finish pounding it in. Make sure this is where you don't want to go too tight. Put another new snap ring in it. Well, it came with a bunch of snap rings. Snap it in. Make sure you drive it into the groove so it's going to seat. Now I always put my grease fittings towards the short yoke. It's just the way I do it, so it doesn't matter, whichever's easiest for you whenever you're going to be greasing the machine. Take our other cap, put grease in it. That way it holds the bearings in. Again, I think I'm going to take it over here on the anvil. You could do it on a cement floor or whatever, as long as it's a nice hard surface. I've done many of them on the floor. I just prefer my anvil. I bought this anvil back when I first started horseshoeing. Something doesn't seem right there, so I'm going to pull it apart, make sure them bearings didn't get out of place. Got it started there. Again, I just drove it just past. And I'm going to go ahead and put this cap in before I put the O-rings or the snap rings in place. This is one of the reasons that I quit making hay. Because no matter what, my hay harvester works in any weather condition. Oops. Okay, we'll stick the snap rings in it. This one here needs drove down a little bit. Well, did you see the mistake that I made already? We're going to go back and fix it. We need to tap that snap ring into place. Forgot that step. At least we remembered. And there's a good chance it wouldn't have snapped back out. But, you know, it's good just to make sure. Everything's good. Now, if you have a U-joint that's a little too tight on you when you first put it in, you can hit the caps here, or the yoke on the outside of the caps, and that way, whenever I put the grease fittings in, I like to have it pointing at the shallow end of the cross. That way, whenever you're greasing, it's more accessible. I have this fancy locking tube grease end. Boy, I tell you what, that thing really, for the 10 or 15 bucks it cost, this thing really works. Put grease in it for them, maybe. Just put 4 pumps in it. Clean the fitting off so you don't have extra grease flying everywhere. We had grease coming out of the caps. Did 4 pumps just to save him the work and the bother. Stick a little grease here. Grease just started poking through down there. We're good to go. This here's nothing more than a coupler. Quick coupler. You pull it back and it pops off. Pretty easy, pretty neat actually. So, okay guys, that's how you put a universal joint in. At least how I do it. I don't have a press or anything fancy, and it's, you know, a lot of farmers or a lot of other people don't have a press either. I mean, but most everybody's got hammer, socket, punch, and you know, the other basic tools to do it with. You don't need to use an anvil, you don't need to use a vise. You know, these 2 pieces of steel would have worked. It would have been a little bit more difficult to do, but that's okay. We'll, you know, you'll get it. And hopefully the next time you have a universal joint break or fall apart, you can fix it yourself and don't have to pay anybody to do it for you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share with a friend. Check out our new merchandise store. It's in the. I have a link to the new merchandise store in the comments below. And we'll talk to you later. Have a wonderful day.